Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. During the program, use the comments section to ask a question, and this will enter you into a drawing to win a set of metal plant tags so you can label your transplants when you plant them outside. I will announce the winner at the end of this program, and you can claim your prize at the second floor information desk. Annette Heistoffer is with us today. She is the UK Extension Agent for Horticulture Education in Davis County. She helps to train our local master gardeners in our area, who are in turn responsible for the upkeep of our seed library. The seed library is currently closed, but should be opening soon. And you are allowed to take 5 packets of seeds monthly when it is open. Thank you for joining us today, Annette.
Glad to join you today. And today we are going to talk about our transplants. And the seed library, this is a perfect program to follow in with that. But remember that not everything is going to be transplanted right away. So that's what to learn about as I get the PowerPoint up and getting it to cooperate. Here's what it was, real quick. No, here we go. I've got it now. So growing your vegetable transplants. And again, I can be reached at the Davis County Cooperative Extension Service. And for growing these transplants, why do we even want to grow them? We might want to grow them because you can grow what you want to grow.
Annette, we're not seeing your presentation on our end.
Let me stop sharing.
Oh, now I see it. Now I see it.
Okay.
Yes, now it's...
Would you like me to go back to the title slide?
If you wouldn't mind, just so we have the visual to go with it.
So growing vegetable transplants is a lot of fun, but there's a few other reasons why we grow those transplants. Your reason might be because you can grow what you want to grow. Maybe you like heirlooms and locally, or you might have a tomato or a pepper you really like. Also have the transplants ready when you want to put them in the garden, and of course for fun. So today we'll talk about when to start the transplants, your basic materials, growing conditions needed, and growing a variety of vegetables. So some of the basic containers, soilless media, lighting, and seeds. For a container, it may be something just from around your house, like a bottom of a plastic milk jug. You'll need to poke holes in the bottom of that because you need good drainage. It could also be carry-out containers, maybe even some plastic pots that you have. You definitely need to clean those plastic pots, wash them, and make sure they're clean. And then you could also purchase things like peat pots, netted core pellets. The core is actually coconut, but make sure it's netted, otherwise it all falls apart. And then some type of those containers in so you don't have water all over the place. Peat pots, for example, are ones that can be used to leave the seedlings in the pot. Make sure you tear off that lip around the top, that edge. If it sticks up out of the ground, it will get dry and dry all down the side of the pot and feel the roots in touch with it. So just peel off that edging on the outside. The trays are nice so that these peat pots or pellets or even other containers in them so you don't have water all over the place. Soilless media is recommended. Soil contains many microbes that will compete with our seeds and like to feed on the seeds. So seed starting mix is an example. Peat pellets, coconut fiber, make sure it's netted or you can get it compressed. and potting soil. These would all not contain the microbes that soil would contain. A windowsill is just light. So lights are required for the best production of seedlings. You can use cool white fluorescent lamps, cool white and warm together, or a cool white and a plant growth lamp, or plant growth lamps only. They're a little bit expensive. That's why mixing in the others will help with keeping the expense down. Or even the LED, the original bulbs are a little expensive, but they last a long time. We use these bulbs because they have the red and red and blue lights that are required by plants to keep them from, we call growing leg. They just stretch and have more space between leaves and makes them where they're not a good quality transplant. The systems can be homemade, like my master gardener put this one together with a shop light, a bank so he could use it and put it with PVC, and then chained to be able to raise it and lower it. Or you could already purchase something put together, but it's expensive. For our seeds, start with high quality seeds. Look on the package for the date. The previous year seeds may not produce quite as well, but just add more seed. So you might find that with the seed library, they were either last year's seed, maybe the years before. Seeds can keep for that long, especially if they're in a cool, dry location. You just might need to add a few more seeds and actually thin a little bit more. Just a reminder, for cool season crops, they tolerate a light frost. Cabbage, broccoli, lettuce, cauliflower, those kinds of crops, but we're going to start our seedlings of the cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower are the transplants we need. For warm season crops, these are the ones that don't like the weather outside when it's cold at all. Many of these we do grow by transplants, like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. We can do cucumbers and the melons, but if we waited and tried to put them outside and start them, then we probably wouldn't get plants until late summer, finally get a plant growing. So it helps to stay. So when do we start seeds? A day like today, when it's cloudy, we're ready to go and do some things inside the garden. Well, what you need to do is look at the target date to put it inside the garden. So the last column in this table are the target dates to put it into the garden. So if we're looking at our cabbage, March 15th is our local target date for Western Kentucky. As we go to the second column, we can produce a transplant in 4 to 7 weeks. So the date that we can do it early for seeding was January 25th, and that would give us 7 weeks to transplant. On the other hand, the latest date we want to target for March 15th would be 5 weeks of production is February the 8th. So for a tomato, I'm hungry always for a tomato when I talk about vegetables. It will take us 6 weeks to sit in the garden around April 20th. Remembering on these warm season crops, we may have to cover it because this past years we've had frost almost 4 weeks. If I'm produce a great transplant in 4 weeks, I'd start March 23rd. If it's going to take me 6 weeks, I'll start March 9th. The last two, cucumbers and squash, they don't like to be handled at all. So only give them 2 to 3 weeks in production. And usually an individual pot that in the soil is a lot better. Peat pots are great. You can do it in other containers, but be very careful. So we don't want to start cucumbers or squash until about March 30th at the earliest, and about April 6th for the latest to get it out in the garden around April 20th. Those target 128. As we're getting then to actually put our seed, whatever soilless media we're using, we want to go ahead and get it wet and moisten it. And you put gloves on, that's fine. But what we have to do is moisten that soil and mix it around. If we moisten that soil, then what will happen is the water will and leave some dry. If you're using the peat pellets or the coconut core, just put them in water, make sure that they're fully expanded and ready to go. And you might want to, the seeds are not other seeds and not use individual pots, then broadcast the seed in a tray that you already have your media in, and sprinkle the tomato seeds, peppers, broccoli, or the broccoli, and most will work, or you can put them in a row too. Cover them with, if you have leftover moistened soil or dry soil, and then gently water them. If you want to, plants like tomatoes can go into individual pots, and then that way you don't have to. Squash, cucumbers, or other ones too to go in the individual pots. And you need to gently pinch the soil if they're in fields just to cover the seed. Then your container into a plastic bag so that it won't dry out, because that's the key. This media can dry out quite quickly, especially in our homes when it's really dry in the winter time. Now, mat can be used for germination, especially some seeds like seedless watermelons. With those, they may need the extra heat from the bottom, but don't leave them on that heat mat after they're germinated, because then the plant begins growing too fast and the stem gets elongated. So these are the cotyledons emerging from the plant. So you can see this is the germination process. So at a particular point, you want to go ahead and get it into light right away so that, again, they don't elongate too much. Cotyledon are the seed leaves that helps the little seedling out until true leaves are developed to get the plant started growing. So after that germination, it needs to go in a place with the light, which is, again, our body. In this photograph, you can see that the lights need to be able to move up as the plant grows, because you can see there's about only 3 inches of full space between the foliage and the lights on the picture up in the corner. In this case, the master gardener worked with these seedlings and grew them in her garage. Garages are great places as long as it's heated. You might have to give a little bit supplemental heat, but you can see that she used trays to hold up the plants closer to the light. Keep the lights on from 12 to 18 hours. You can go probably an average of 14 if you're not really sure. The longer hour length we give them, the more the quality and more they will get, but you don't want to leave it on all night. They do have to have a rest period. This makes timers very useful. So high intensity lights are really better to give you better quality plants. And you can see in the photographs to remember and remind yourself they need to be close lights. And those are definitely tomato plants. If, again, we don't have enough light, these become spindly. There's a long stem before any leaves or in between leaves. these transplants in that tray are not good. They'll start breaking apart. So they need to start over in this case. For temperature, night temperature, generally in a 60 to 68 degree range and 75 day temperature. So that gives us an idea that it's 10 degrees warmer during the day than at night. For cool season crops, it would be cooler day and night temperatures like 55 night and 65 days. That's kind of where a room that's cold in your home or a heated garage works well. For the warm season crops, though, we want about a 65 night and a 75 day. On tomatoes, as pictured, we don't want to go below 65 or 60 for sure, because then our first tomatoes may end up, we call it cat-faced, where they're deformed. And that happens as the transplant. After those seedlings ready to move, after we broadcast them in the tray, then move those. And what we need to do is handle them by the leaves. And in this case, we're seeing the true leaves are stuck in the middle of the plant. These are the seed leaves. But when moving those from our tray that we had sown them in, we have to use a tool to help lift them out of that tray and then tease apart the roots and handle the leaves. Because if we don't, and we break the stem, the plant is done and it will be dead. Fertilizing is, and we can fertilize the seedlings after the second seeds appear according to your seed or your fertilizer container for seeds. It's generally about a half rate. Examples are a 20-20-20 fertilizer or a houseplant fertilizer that you might have. And you might need to repeat it in about 2 weeks. The only thing is, more is not better for transplants. If we get them growing too quickly, then again, it'll stretch and the plants won't be quality. One other thing to growing transplants is to harden them off 2 weeks before you're planting them out into the garden. And you can start this by reducing water and fertilizer, and then we'll take them in and outside day and night. Now, once you've done it out in and out for several days and the temperature will not get too cold compared to what the plant will tolerate, you could start leaving them outside if you trust it in the area so that animals don't destroy your transplants. But reducing water and fertilizer helps, but also don't let the plant dry out. If it wilts, then it'll damage the plant and it will not be very thrifty for you, because you want good quality transplants. Don't be discouraged if this year it doesn't turn out quite as well. Put in your budget to be able to purchase a few plants just in case, but it definitely is a process. It's fun to do, and what you will want to keep trying year after year, and you'll get better and better at it. When you're done, you may have some seed. So if you don't have them with a friend, store area in an airtight container. It can be in glass or a plastic container. Label and date it so you know what the seeds are and how old they might be. And store it at 40 degrees and low humidity is ideal. So a refrigerator would be ideal in that dry, airtight container. If you don't have room in your refrigerator, then go ahead and store them in a cool, dry location. The other thing is, do not freeze the seed because that can damage the embryo. So your own transplants can really be fun and definitely sometimes challenging, but we have an. Are there any questions?
Yes, Annette, we have a few questions. Give me 1 second here.
Sure.
Best time to transplant watermelons.
Okay, you may have already covered this, but we did have a question of what is the best time to transplant watermelon seeds? Oh, you might want to turn your video back off, Annette. We can't hear you.
They are warm season. Watermelons are warm season crops. They not be until after about May 1st or even May 10th, depending on our weather. If we've had a warm spring, then it would be good. Give it about 2 to 3 weeks from when you want to plant it into the garden. Some of them, I would also
Annette,
check.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you start over? You cut out quite a bit. Thank you.
I apologize for that. The seed for watermelons, it's best to put in the garden after the soil is warmer, so about May 1st. And I would look at the seed packet because it may tell you how many days before sowing the seed, but I would give your at least 3 weeks.
Thank you, Annette. Another question we had is my seedlings are spindly. How can I prevent that?
I would relook at your method of using light. So possibly the light needs to be closer to the seed, and check the temperature if it's too warm. Many times the seedlings will also start to get spindly.
Thank you. The next question we have is what material should I add to my raised bed garden every year?
For a raised bed garden, in that case, for your garden, I would see, first of all, if in a raised bed garden, compost would be something that possibly add, because that'll add organic matter, but it needs to be compost that's been through the whole process of breaking everything down. With really shouldn't be getting compacted, so many times you may not need to add anything other than just to help refill it just a little bit. So just add back some materials that you need, and you can test the soil to see what you might need for fertilizer.
Thank you. Our next question, my seeds started well, then got really thin stems and died. I don't know what I did wrong.
For that particular case, the spindly seedlings, we have to be careful with our media and make sure that's the soilless material, what they're growing in, that we don't keep it wet. We don't want them to be too dry and wilt, but there's a fine line between too moist and not moist enough. And then the other key is once they're just starting to come up, they need to go into under the lights quickly with lights really low on those seedlings.
Thank you, Annette. I also have had a request for someone to have this presentation in print. Would it be possible at the end of this for you to email it to me so I can share it with people?
I would be glad that. That would be wonderful.
Great, thank you. All right, that is our last question. Before we go, I did want to announce that our winner of the metal plant labels for transplants is Lisa Ladnier. So Lisa, you can come to the second floor information desk and claim your prize. We'll have it there waiting for you. Annette, thank you so much for joining us today. That was a lot of great information, and I'm happy to share the presentation after you email it to me to anybody that asks for it. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Say thank you to the library for hosting the program today.
Sure, it's our pleasure. You have a great rest of your day, Annette.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.